Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Reiner, and your host of the Independent Doctors of Pahrump. And tonight, of course, is a live show. This is not a recorded show, so the call-in number that should be displayed on your screen will be the 727-8750. That will be the call-in. And last show we had a lively show with a lot of call-ins and a lot of questions, and certainly enjoy that part of the show to answer your questions that you may have. It's always a little bit of a challenge, but one of the things I've kind of discovered after practicing medicine for 30 years is that there isn't too much you haven't seen, but there's always things that you don't know or have to research. And at the end of the last show, Ray had a couple of questions. He let me ramble for a few 30 minutes, and then he called in and asked a question. And one of the part we never got to, which was the adult diseases and some of the measles, mumps, and rubella, and some of the other issues. And I don't remember exactly the question, but the likelihood of you getting those diseases, and I come from that age group right before measles and the mumps and rubella vaccine came out, that we actually got those diseases. And so once you've developed an actual live disease, or you actually got the disease, you actually developed what we call true cellular immunity. And that's a lifelong immunity that does not usually go away unless for some reason they wipe out your bone marrow or your other tissues that would erase that immunity. So cellular immunity is lifelong. So if you had measles, you had mumps, you had rubella. In fact, when we do a tuberculosis test on some people, they do what they call an MMR, or a measles control. And what that means is they will inject, they don't do that anymore, they used to. Now they have quantiferon and other tests which are very, very sensitive to pick up an exposure to tuberculosis. But for some people whose immune system might be on the downside, they would inject a mumps control under one arm, and on the other arm they would inject what we call the PPD, or the purified tuberculin protein, and they would measure the reaction on both. So you had an area where you actually had that. Now, that would not be true for some of the newer vaccines that have come out, such as the acellular pertussis vaccine. That has a very high incidence of, and I don't say high, but higher than actually and you don't want to get the disease. But that being said, when you have an acellular form of the vaccine, there's a better chance that you may not develop the immunity to that. So that might leave you with a false sense of security with regardings to not being able to get pertussis. And for even adults my age, which is in the 50s, you actually can see, I think pertussis made a resurgence, or whooping cough made a resurgence in the adult population. So it is a good idea to think about getting re-immunized for some of those diseases that you did not get a cellular immunity from. And obviously we were injected with smallpox for, or actually cowpox for smallpox, and supposedly it was eradicated from the world by a robust immunization program, because we were the only host for that disease, so that if you eliminated the possibility of getting that disease, you can eliminate the virus from existence. So that was one of the neat things, and I don't know whether or not it was actually declared that we had actually gotten rid of that from the world. I believe it was. So anyway, that's it. Once you have those diseases, then you usually are immune for a very, very long period of time. One of the things that I've had in my mind to kind of talk about, that, and I may have mentioned it on previous shows, might have been gout, which is one of those things that comes up periodically. Some people ask about their uric acid level. And some people, and I know I've talked about it on previous shows, it is a very common disorder, usually seen later in life. and can be accentuated by the use of diuretics, and we do see that a lot in our patient population out in Pahrump because there's a lot of edema and congestive heart failure. And uric acid is one of these byproducts of protein metabolism. And when you eat protein, you make uric acid. Normally, it doesn't become a problem because you excrete that uric acid in your urine. However, there are some times when the uric acid doesn't get excreted. Either you make too much and the body cannot get rid of it, or you don't excrete it because you have interference. And those diuretics, like hydrochlorothiazide, is one of the major culprits in allowing your body to maintain that high level of uric acid. Ray is on the phone. Ray?
Yes, I am. Hey, it's good to see you live.
Yep.
That's wonderful. I thought you were going to have somebody on today from one of the dispensaries or something like that. That didn't go through, or what?
Well, the person from the grow house, apparently they're coming on. They were going through their state inspection, or the actual dispensary. So I think it's planned for. They wanted to come on the 23rd, but that's right before Thanksgiving, and I think I'm going to be gone that week. So it'll be probably after that, after Thanksgiving.
Well, you deserve a vacation, so don't feel bad about it.
I don't.
Hey, I saw something on one of the networks. There was a Dr. Jill Wabel from, let's see, Miami Dermatology and Laser Institute, and she was talking about something called a fractionated laser. And evidently, they've been doing some fantastic things with this laser. The one girl from Vietnam that got burnt up by napalm like 40-some years ago, they showed this laser removing all the scar tissue from 40-some years before. Mm-hmm. Familiar with this, or is this something like brand new, or has it been around for a while? A fractionated, let's see, a fractionated laser.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that laser, but it's probably like everything else. It's one of those newer technologies that they come out with, and I think that it sounds very promising based on what you said.
It looked like something circular, and they would keep touching the different scar tissues. And they said it doesn't matter how old the tissue is, the scar tissue, but that this is very effective. And they were doing it free because when the girl was like 8 years old, she got hit with the napalm, and all these years she's been suffering. She said she's been in a lot of pain, and so they flew her into Miami, and they're doing this gratis for free because they just wanted to show, how they can help somebody out.
Well, that's an amazing, if that's true, that's an amazing piece of technology, and certainly would be helpful because once that scar tissue sets in, it probably takes it off, peels it off in micro layers, I would imagine, and it's kind of like a dermabrasion, but much cleaner and much more efficient. So lasers are amazing pieces of equipment, no doubt.
The other thing is you were mentioning about childhood diseases. I never had chicken pox, but isn't that something that haunts you the rest of your life? Chicken pox that comes back, I believe that's the one where people get those rashes later in life. Is that chicken pox? Which one is it?
Yeah, chicken pox is something we all get in childhood, but that's what develops shingles. So you basically get chicken pox and as a child, and it lays dormant in the dorsal columns of the spine, and then later it will come out in the form of shingles. So if you've never had chicken pox, and there are subclinical chicken pox, meaning some people get very limited amount of pox on their skin, but they still have the disease, and the simple test for that is a varicella IgG, which is an immunoglobulin G for the varicella vaccine or the chickenpox virus. And if you hadn't received that, or if you were one of those people that didn't get that particular disease, then it could be very dangerous in an adult. If you were to get chickenpox as an adult, there's a very high incidence of varicella pneumonia, which has a very high mortality rate. So that would be a blood test. If you weren't sure whether or not you had chickenpox, I would definitely think about getting that blood test, and then if you didn't, I would think about getting immunized for chickenpox.
Well, how would you catch chickenpox? Contact with someone that used to have it, or?
Yes, yes, it is a virus that is spread through contact, either through the virus itself or through aerosolization, but it's usually a thing, and you get it in your body, and it basically is all over, and it lives, and then it eventually resolves it. It's very itchy. It's not painful as a child, but it is. But for some reason, the virus seems to lay dormant in the dorsal columns of the spine, which is in these nerve roots that come out, not in the central nervous system, but just outside. And that's why when it reactivates, you get a specific area on the body, almost like a band-like on one side. Shingles is pathognomonic, which means that you can pretty much, it's a pathological finding that it will go on one side of the body, left or right, never crosses the midline. Occasionally it goes a little over the midline, but if you see a rash that is total body in a specific area, then you can almost make sure it's not chickenpox. But if it's very painful, it's on one side of the body usually, and if you go and look at dermatomes, they're basically like the L5, everybody's heard about the L5S1 nerve root, which is sciatica. Well, that is a dermatome, meaning it goes down the back of the leg, and the pain will radiate down the back of the leg into the leg. That is a dermatome. So if you were to have shingles in that area, it would basically go the entire leg down there. You would see virus and blisters and very painful things of that nature. So.
And last but not least, as far as polio, if like I was vaccinated back in the 50s with, I guess it was Salk. It wasn't Sabin because it was inoculations. I think I had 3. Mm-hmm. No chance of you ever getting that again, right? Once you're vaccinated with polio, or is it making a comeback like some of this other stuff?
No, I believe polio is now vaccine. We used to swallow it sublingual, and I think oral polio was a live attenuated vaccine. But Ray, we're gonna go to break real quick and hold on the phone, and we'll pick you right back up after that and finish those questions. Very good discussion. I want to talk a little bit about polio, so we'll be right back.